In this video, I'll be going over the Chapter 6 homework. So here's our first example. We'll be calculating the cost of credit. John Walters is comparing the cost of credit to the cash price of an item. If John makes an $80 down payment and pays $35 a month for 24 months, how much more will that amount be than the cash price of $685? So here we have our formula on the cost of credit. We're going to take the down payment plus, and in parentheses here, we'll take the payment amount and multiply it by the number of payments. And then we'll go ahead and subtract the cash price. So our down payment above was the $80. The monthly payment was the $35 at 24 months. So we'll multiply these two. And then the cash price was the $685. So plugging this into my calculator, we get $235 for our cost of credit. In our next example, we're looking at unit price. So you're going to be asked to calculate the unit price of each of the following items. So the formula that we'll use for the unit price is the cost divided by the amount of units. So here you actually want to be really careful on how you're entering the answer because it has to be in a particular unit of measure. So in part A, we're working with motor oil. We've got 2.5 quarts for $1.95. So we'll take the $1.95, that's our cost, and divide it by the amount of units. In this case, it's the 2.5 quarts, and we get 78 cents a quart. So in the parentheses here, it's the unit of measure that you have to be using, and in the homework, it'll have that on the right-hand side as well. So in part B, we're looking at cereal, 15 ounces for $2.17. So we'll take the 217 and divide it by our 15 ounces, and our unit price is 14.5 cents per ounce. In part C, we're looking at canned fruit, 13 ounces for 89 cents. So we'll take the 89 cents here, and note it is 0.89, just not 89 cents off the bat. We have to make sure we have our decimals in there. Divided by the 13 ounces, and we get 6.8 cents per ounce. And in part D, we're working with facial tissue. We've got 300 tissues for $2.25. Note here, we are working with cents for every 100 tissues. So there's a little bit of conversion that we're going to be working with here. So for the unit price, we'll take the $2.25, that's our cost here, and divide it by, so in parentheses, I've got my units, which is the 300 tissues, but I have to divide it by 100 because I'm interested in increments of 100 tissues. And then when I solve for this, we get a unit price of 75 cents per 100 tissues. So you want to be careful that you have the correct units of measure set up. In this next example, we're going to be looking at net present value. What would the net present value of a microwave oven that costs $159 and will save you $68 a year in time and food away from home? So assume an average return on your savings of 4% for 5 years. Hint, you'll want to calculate the present value of your annual savings and then subtract the cost of the microwave. We're going to be using Exhibit 1D. So recall this is way back in Chapter 1 when we learned about the different time value of money exhibits and tables. So here's our formula for the net present value. We're going to take the annual savings times our present value annuity factor and then subtract the initial cost. That's essentially what my hint is written as a formula. So our annual savings, that was the $68 given to us. And to get the PVA factor, we'll have to look at Exhibit 1D. So I'll show you how to do that again real quick. And then our initial cost was the $159. So here's our Exhibit 1D. And on the period side, we're looking at 5 years. So I'll go down to the 5-year row. And we'll go to the 4% column because that's the assumed interest rate. So here's my 4%, and again, I'll go down until I get to the 5 years. So here's my PVA factor of 4.452. So now I've got that here, and plugging all this into my calculator, again, work with your parentheses first, and then subtract the 159. And we get $143.74 for the net present value. In this next example, we're going to be analyzing our savings and its future value. If a person saves $62 a month by using coupons and doing comparison shopping, Part A, what is the amount for a year? So we'll find the annual savings by taking our monthly savings and multiplying by 12 because there are 12 months in a year. So we'll take the $62, multiply by 12, and we get an annual savings of $744. Now in Part B, it asks, what would the future value of this annual amount over 10 years be, assuming an interest rate of 4%? So here's our future value formula. We're going to take that annual savings we found in Part A and we'll multiply it by the future value annuity factor. So I'm going to be using Exhibit B for this one. So for our period, we're working with 10 years. So I'm going to go down to the 10-year row. And we're working with 4%, so I'll go to the 4% column and go down until I get to the 10-year row. And so our FVA factor is 12.006. So plugging this in, our 744 annual savings times our factor of 12.006, we get a future value of $8,932.46. So this is really the value of saving money over the 10 years at a particular interest rate. In our next example, we're going to be analyzing buying versus leasing. So you're given some data in regards to down payments, monthly loan payment, the length of the loan, and the value of the vehicle on the left. And then on the right, you're given some leasing information around down payments, monthly payments, again, the length of the lease, and any end of lease charges. So what is the total cash outflow for buying and for leasing a motor vehicle with a cash price of $24,000? So first, we're going to look at buying. And so here's our formula, our total cash outflow. It'll be our down payment plus, in parentheses, our loan payment times the number of payments we have to make. And then we'll subtract the ending vehicle value. So I'll take my down payment of $4,000 plus, here's my loan payment of $560 times 48 months. And then the value of the vehicle at the end of the loan of $7,200 is subtracted. Using my calculator, we get a total cash outflow of $23,680 if we buy. What about leasing? So here's our formula for leasing for our total cash outflow. We'll take our down payment plus, in parentheses, our lease payment times the number of payments plus any end of lease charges. That means these are additional costs that we have to pay after we return the car. So our down payment is the $1,200 plus, here's my lease payment of $440 times the 48 months, plus the $600 end of lease charges. Putting all that into my calculator, we get $22,920. So between the two options of buying or leasing, leasing is the lower total cash outflow. So we would recommend to lease the vehicle. So in this next example, we're going to be calculating the operating costs of a car. So we're given some data here, and you're going to be calculating a couple of pieces. So in Part A, we want to find the total annual operating cost of a particular motor vehicle. So first, we have to find the total variable costs. And so that's going to be, in parentheses, first our annual mileage, that's the 13,200, divided by the miles per gallon, it's estimated at 24. And then we'll multiply it by the gas price per gallon, which was given to us at $3.50. Then we'll add our oil changes and repairs along with any parking and tolls. So here are my numbers. Remember, working with anything in parentheses first, and then adding the additional costs of oil changes and repairs and parking and tolls. And we get a total variable cost of $2,715. In the next part, we have to figure out the total fixed costs. And so this will be our depreciation plus loan interest plus insurance plus license and registration fees. So looking at my data above here, I'm going to plug in the corresponding number for each of the variables. And when I plug this into my calculator, we get a total fixed cost of $3,895. So for our annual operating costs, we'll add up our variable costs that we found and our fixed costs. And so we'll get our total annual operating costs as $6,610. In Part B, we now want to calculate the operating cost per mile. So we're going to take the total annual operating cost you found in Part A and divide it by the annual mileage given to us in the data. So taking the 6,610 divided by the 13,200 miles, and we get an operating cost per mile of 50 cents. In this next problem, we're going to be looking at class action lawsuits. A class action lawsuit against a utility company resulted in a settlement of $1.4 million for 62,000 customers. If the legal fees, which must be paid from the settlement, are $300,000, what amount will each plaintiff receive? So here's our formula, amount per plaintiff that we're trying to find. We're going to take the settlement amount, that's the $1.4 million, minus the legal fees that get paid out of it, and then we'll divide it by how many customers or plaintiffs we have. So taking our 1.4 million minus the 300,000, solve that in parentheses, and then divide it by our 62,000 plaintiffs or customers, and we get $17.74 per person. So if you have any questions, just let me know.